Sheriff Thomas Rourke was asleep when the call came in. The old radio crackled on the nightstand beside his bed, something it hadn't done in years. He rolled over and squinted at the glowing red digits on the alarm clock, 2:46 a.m. Then, a woman's voice, barely more than a whisper, slipped through the static. "There's a man outside, wearing your uniform, your badge, but it's not you." A pause. "He says he knows me. Says he's come to take me home." Then, silence. No address. No name. Just that voice. And somehow, that was the part that scared him most. Before Sheriff Rourke steps into the darkness, do this one thing. Like the video and subscribe to the channel. Because when your reflection starts acting on its own, and you hear footsteps behind you when you're alone, you'll want someone to remember your name. Sheriff Thomas Rourke had seen more than most men should. 34 years in uniform. 3 generations of pain in one dying county. Meth dens, shotgun suicides, and kids gone missing in woods older than the town itself. But what still haunted him wasn't the violence. It was the silence. That moment before things went wrong. The eerie stillness before a scream. And tonight, that silence was deafening. He threw on his uniform, tugged his coat against the chill, and stepped outside. The air was unnaturally still. Not a leaf stirred. Even the dogs down the road had gone quiet. As he climbed into his cruiser, the radio clicked again. "Sheriff? You heard the call." It was May Bell, the night dispatcher. She sounded shaken. "Yeah," Rourke said. "You trace it?" "No. The signal came through your frequency. Narrowband. Shortwave. But..." "What?" "I know the voice. It was Margaret Kessler." That made his stomach drop. Margaret was an old widow. Lived alone out past Black Hollow, right near where the woods turned to stone and silence. She'd once told him the wind didn't blow right out there. She said he had your badge, Sheriff. What does that mean? He didn't answer, just gripped the wheel tighter and drove. It took 15 minutes to get to her place. The fog got thicker the closer he came, clinging to the road like something alive. His headlights barely cut through it. Trees leaned inward like they were trying to listen. When he pulled into Margaret's gravel driveway, her porch light was off. Her car was there, but no lights inside. He knocked on the front door, 3 soft taps, a pause, then one more. His usual rhythm. A few seconds later, it opened a crack. Margaret's bloodshot eye peeked through the gap. "Tom," she asked. "Yes, ma'am." "You all right? You came back." "I just got here," he said slowly. She opened the door wider, but only slightly. "No, you came earlier. Not the same way. Said the same thing. But it wasn't right." A cold finger traced the back of Rourke's neck. "He looked like you, Tom. Sounded like you. But he smiled too much. Like he wasn't used to doing it." He stepped inside. The living room felt wrong. Air heavy, charged, like just after a lightning strike. Her clock on the wall had stopped, 2:46 a.m. Did he say anything else? He said, "I dropped something in the yard." Kept repeating it. No emotion, just that same smile. Did he leave on foot? No, he didn't walk away. He faded, like smoke. Rourke did a full perimeter sweep. No tracks, no footprints, no tire marks. The grass was undisturbed. Frost hadn't even broken. Back inside, Margaret handed him a cup of tea with trembling hands. "I knew it wasn't you," she said again. He didn't cast a shadow. And when he passed the hallway mirror, what about it? His reflection didn't follow. He kept walking, but the mirror, it stayed empty. Her voice cracked. "That wasn't a man, Tom." Suddenly, the radio buzzed again. "Sheriff," another call. Same voice, same message, same timestamp. 2:46, but the line's dead. Rourke turned sharply. "Margaret, when exactly did he knock?" "I don't know. Maybe 20 minutes ago." He checked his watch. It was 2:46. Again, he looked at the wall clock. Still frozen. "Wait here," he said. As he stepped back outside, the fog was heavier now. It clung to the cruiser. No, not his cruiser. Another one. Same model, same number, same dent on the front bumper. But his was parked right there, in the driveway. The second one was on the road, and then a figure stepped from behind it, wearing his hat, his badge, his face. But the mouth smiled too wide, skin stretched thin like rubber. The eyes were too black, too still, and the thing pointed at him, then mouthed the words, "You're not supposed to be here yet." Sheriff Rourke didn't remember getting back in the cruiser. 1 second, he was staring at himself, that thing, in the fog. The next, he was sitting behind the wheel, engine idling, headlights off. The clock blinked, 2:46 a.m. Still, he looked up. The other cruiser was gone. No tire tracks, no figure in the road, just that crawling, living fog. He radioed in. "Maybelle, any update on Margaret Kessler?" Static hissed. Then, "Tom, Margaret's been dead for 3 years." Rourke stared at the radio, heart turning cold. "Died in her sleep. Remember? You gave the eulogy. Her house was condemned." He looked back at the cabin. The lights were off now. He could see through the front window, boards nailed across the frame. The porch steps were collapsed, the driveway covered in weeds. And yet, he remembered knocking, talking to her, drinking tea. The taste still lingered on his tongue. "You okay, Tom?" He didn't answer. He just drove. Willow Creek had always had its secrets. Some were buried beneath decades of hush-hush silence. Others were erased altogether. But there was one case that never sat right with Rourke. Deputy Clay Hartman. Vanished 17 years ago. No body. No witnesses. Just blood in the back of his squad car and a voice message Rourke never shared with anyone. He had it saved on an old tape in his safe. At the station, the fog followed him all the way back. Not just outside, inside. It crept along the walls of the police station like mold. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, flickering weakly. Only one other car was in the lot. Deputy Finch's. That was strange. Finch never worked nights. And Rourke hadn't called him in. He stepped inside, boots echoing on the tile. The reception area was empty. No coffee brewing. No papers rustling. Just silence. "Finch," he called out. No answer. He passed by the mirror in the hallway and paused. His reflection wasn't matching his steps. It lagged, just by half a second, but it lagged. Then, for a moment, it smiled when he didn't. He turned and smashed it with his flashlight. Glass rained to the floor. From somewhere deep in the station, he heard something move. A scraping sound, like someone dragging a boot across concrete. He followed it. Downstairs, in the archives room, the air was colder. Dust clung to every surface. He unlocked the evidence locker, and there it was. Box 17 Clay, the Hartman file. Everything they never closed. Everything they tried to forget. He opened it. Photos of the cruiser, abandoned off Highway 11. Blood on the steering wheel. And a torn piece of a uniform. Part of Clay's sleeve, ripped clean off. Tucked in the file was the cassette tape. He placed it in the recorder. Pressed play. Static, then a voice. "Sheriff, if you get this, don't come after me. It's not safe." Rourke leaned closer. "It wears us. Like a suit. It learns, first your face, then your walk, then your thoughts. It's already inside the station. You think you're safe. You're not." Then a scream. Garbage audio. And finally, "Don't trust anyone. Not even your own shadow." Click. Silence. The radio hissed again. "Sheriff, come to the cells. Something's wrong." It was Finch. Only it wasn't. The voice was too calm, too measured. Rourke drew his weapon and moved quietly through the station. The hallway to the holding cells was flooded with that blue-white fog. Lights flickered overhead. One had burst, leaving sparks falling to the tile. Then he saw it. Finch stood behind the cell bars. Or something wearing Finch's skin did. It was grinning, and its eyes were completely black. Not shadowed, hollow. It was mouthing something, repeating it silently. "You're not supposed to be here yet." Same words the imposter had spoken on the road. Rourke raised his gun. "Where's Deputy Finch?" The thing tilted its head impossibly far to the side. He screamed for hours, it said. Then he begged. Then he tried to make a deal. But you know how deals work in this town. Its voice wasn't Finch's anymore. It had dropped the mask. Now it sounded like Rourke. Exactly like him. "Open the door," it said. "Let me finish what you started." Rourke fired. The bullet passed straight through, as if the thing were made of fog and shadow. It laughed, and then it was gone. No sound, no body, just the echo of that laugh, bouncing through the stone walls. Back in the main hallway, every mirror was broken. Every reflection warped, bent. As he passed the break room, the door opened on its own, and on the table sat a file. A new one, labeled Rourke. Inside, photos of him, sleeping, driving, standing in Margaret Kessler's living room. Today, tonight. Moments he hadn't told anyone about. Moments he didn't remember happening. One photo showed him standing over his own body, covered in blood. He dropped the file and stumbled back. The light snapped off. Pitch black. Only the emergency red bulb above the exit flickered. Then a voice behind him whispered, "You've already been replaced." Rourke ran out of the station, into the cruiser, started the engine, but his hands were shaking. He looked in the rearview mirror, and there was someone in the back seat. Him, grinning, bleeding from the eyes. Sheriff Rourke didn't remember turning on the ignition. All he knew was the cold grip of the steering wheel beneath his hands, the rhythmic hum of tires rolling over cracked pavement, and a hollow void gnawing at his sanity. Something had stared into him back there. Not watched. Read. Like flipping pages of his mind. He gritted his teeth. The headlights sliced through a fog so thick it felt alive. It pressed against the windshield like breath. He wasn't sure where he was going. Only that staying in that station would have meant surrender. The place was infested. Not with spirits. Not with criminals. With copies. Imposters. Things wearing memories like skin. He turned off the main road and into the dark hills, gravel crunching under wheels. A rusted sign emerged in his high beams. Old Rook Asylum, keep out. He hadn't thought of the place in years. It had burned 2 decades ago, a fire that killed Dr. Evelyn Rook and dozens of her patients. She was infamous for her research into ego delamination, identity collapse under trauma. Everyone thought she was a crackpot, a ghost chaser with a psychology degree. But her name had come up. In the whispers, in the fog, something inside him knew the truth had burned with her. Or so they thought. The asylum loomed like a corpse, draped in shadow. The walls blistered with age. Windows shattered. The gates hung from one hinge. His cruiser idled as he stared at the entrance. The building felt wrong, not just in shape, but in the way it occupied space. Angles bent subtly inward. The roofline sloped impossibly. He entered. Inside, it smelled like wet decay. The hallway stretched too long, every footstep echoing far more than it should. The floorboards wept when he stepped. Water seeped through the walls. The place was breathing. He wandered without knowing why, until he reached Ward B3, the research wing. The door was still intact, though the rust bit at its frame. He shoulder-checked it open and was met by a room lost in time. Recording machines sat idle, charts yellowed and curling, and on one whiteboard, scrawled in almost illegible script. The ego is porous when pain is present. The host must remember who they are, or they become what they fear. A shiver trickled down his back. He sifted through a shelf of dusty tapes. One stood out. Case 13, Hartman. He jammed it into the old player. A click, then the familiar voice of Dr. Rourke. Subject demonstrates progressive ego unraveling. He claims voices speak in his name, that his reflection moves on its own. We are witnessing cognitive partitioning in real time. He refers to the reflection as the hollow one. Another voice followed. Younger. Male. Sheriff? If you're hearing this, they're already inside. It was Clay Hartman. They took Margaret. She kept praying to the mirror. said she wanted to see herself better. But it wasn't her that looked back anymore. Static. Sometimes I hear myself laughing, but I'm not. I'm not laughing, Sheriff. Click. End of tape. Rourke stood frozen. This wasn't just about the station. It was him. He was the case. He sprinted out of the room as a wind picked up, a wind that spoke in his voice. It slithered through the hall, hissing like breath from cracked lips. Tom, you left me behind. A sudden, sharp laugh echoed, then crying, then silence. He followed the noise deeper into the asylum. At the end of a slanted corridor stood a heavy double door, etched above in flaking gold. Know thyself. The mirror room. Moonlight filtered through a gash in the ceiling, casting pale light across standing water. The reflection of the room shimmered across the slick floor, a mimicry of its decayed shell. In the center stood the mirror, towering, black-framed, too clean, too clean. It reflected everything in the room except Rourke. The room was empty. Then, a blink, his reflection flickered into place. But it wasn't mimicking him. It moved just after him. Its mouth curled into a smile. Then, it stepped forward. From inside the mirror, its boots splashed water. Its shoulders squared. It was him. But wrong. The eyes were sunken, the grin wider, the skin too perfect. Like latex. Rourke pulled his gun. Back off. The double smirked. I've been waiting for this moment. You think I'm a copy, Tom? No. I'm the one that remembered. You forgot. You let me in. A chorus of voices echoed beneath its words. Dozens of Tom Rourkes, each twisted slightly. You see them, don't you? The others. Living quiet lives, never wondering where their selves went. The thing stepped closer. You're not alone. You're just next. Bang. The bullet tore through its shoulder, but no blood. It shimmered, glitched, then it charged. They collided in a crash of limbs and splashes. The water was icy, numbing his limbs. The thing gripped his throat, pushing him under. You opened the door. Now you drown in it. Rourke struggled, vision dimming, lungs screaming. But then, a flash in his mind. The whiteboard. The host must remember who they are. He kicked upward, teeth bared, head butting the thing. I know who I am. The mirror behind him cracked. The creature screeched, a noise like shattered glass shrieking. Light poured from its eyes. It spasmed, twitched, then exploded into mist and shards. He gasped, coughing on the floor. Alone. But something felt off. He stared at the mirror, now empty. And yet, a faint outline of his figure lingered, like a stain. He bolted from the room. Back outside, the fog was lifting. Stars blinked overhead. The night no longer pressed down like a weight. He climbed into the cruiser, heart hammering, soaked to the bone. Radio static crackled. Sheriff, this is Maybelle. You there? He grabbed the mic. Yeah, I'm here. A pause. His blood froze. Witness says he didn't talk, just smiled. He looked into the rearview mirror. The back seat? Empty. But for a moment, just one flicker. His reflection didn't blink when he did. Sheriff Rourke didn't drive straight back to town. He couldn't. The night air gnawed at his wet clothes. But it wasn't the cold that unsettled him. It was the way the world felt wrong now. Like a house where the furniture had been rearranged while you were sleeping. Subtle, but unmistakable. The road shimmered beneath his headlights, fog curling like smoke. Every few miles, he glanced into the rearview. Not because he was paranoid, because something inside him told him to. There was a presence, sitting just out of sight. He arrived at the station just before dawn. The building loomed like a tomb, its once familiar outline now foreign. Lights flickered inside, casting faint, twitching silhouettes against the frosted glass. His cruiser door creaked open louder than it should have. Too loud, too heavy. He stepped inside. Everything was normal. Desk lamps glowed. The coffee machine gurgled. Deputy Maybelle looked up from her clipboard and smiled. There you are. Jesus, Tom, you scared me half to death. Where'd you go? Her voice was casual, but too casual, like it was rehearsed. Rourke narrowed his eyes. Had to check on something up in the hills. She nodded, writing something down. You're soaked. Let me grab you a towel. She walked to the supply closet, but didn't open it. She stood there for several seconds, hand on the knob, unmoving. Rourke slowly backed toward his office. Every instinct screamed. The lights above began to hum, then buzz, then flicker. One by one, the bulbs went out down the hallway behind him. Tom. He turned. Maybelle stood there, eyes hollow, mouth twitching into an unnatural smile. You were supposed to stay in the mirror. He ran, down the hall, past cells, through the evidence room. Behind him, footsteps echoed, but not hers, his. Same weight, same rhythm. It was like being hunted by his own echo. He burst into the weapons locker and slammed the door shut. Locked it, grabbed the shotgun off the wall, and checked the rounds. Loaded. The footsteps stopped outside. Then, knocking. 3 slow, deliberate raps. He didn't breathe. You think you brought the truth back with you, the voice outside said. His own voice. But truth doesn't belong here anymore. It belongs to us. Rourke scanned the room. No windows. No vents. One door. He had one chance. He kicked over the shelf and aimed the shotgun at the wall behind it. One blast, boom, blew a hole into the adjacent hallway. He crawled through. The station now shifted around him. Corridors looped. Desks multiplied. The same hallway repeated 5 times. The exit sign blinked in and out of different corners. The station was becoming the mirror, a twisted version of itself. He heard laughter, dozens of voices, all his own, giggling like children, then screaming. He stumbled into the interrogation room. On the table sat a file. His file. Inside, photos of him at scenes he didn't remember being at. Signatures in his handwriting he didn't write. Dates he didn't live through. In every photo, his eyes looked slightly off-center. Like he wasn't looking at the camera, but through it. Suddenly, the lights went out. Pitch black. Silence. Then a click. From the corner, a lighter flared, illuminating a face, his face, grinning. You don't belong here anymore, Tom. He fired. Boom. The flame vanished. The light returned. He was back in the lobby, but something was wrong. Maybelle was there, real Maybelle, and Clay Hartman, and Dr. Evelyn Rourke, and others, all seated, like in a courtroom, expressionless, watching. He turned. Behind the dispatch desk stood himself, only older, smiling. The older version of him walked down and handed him a mirror. Go on, take a look. Decide which of us gets to stay. The mirror didn't show a reflection. It showed a hallway. At the end, a jail cell. Inside it, the real Rourke. We took turns, you and I, the older one whispered. But turns only work if one of us waits. You broke the rhythm. Suddenly, the courtroom flickered, like film burning through a reel. The people vanished. The walls bled darkness. He was standing in the middle of the road, just outside the station. It was day now, sun rising, but the warmth never touched his skin. A car pulled up. A woman stepped out. Tourist, probably. Hi. Sorry to bother you. Are you the sheriff? He looked down. Badge. Uniform. Gun. He nodded slowly. Yes, I am. But inside, something twisted. The answer wasn't yes or no. It was maybe. As Sheriff Rourke stood under the rising sun, badge glinting and smile stretched just a little too wide, a single thought echoed in the wind. If I'm out here, who's still locked in the cell? Before you turn off the lights tonight, make sure your reflection isn't still staring back. Like this video if it gave you chills. Share it with someone who's not afraid of the dark. And if you think you're brave enough, subscribe for more true horror stories that you'll wish you never heard.